Death. That's today's topic. Today, and probably in the next few days, our Gemara shiur that's learning Masechet Shabbos and is holding Daf Kuf Nun Aleph towards the end of the Masechta. The topic of the Gemara today will be death. We will start with the halachas. That will be about 10 minutes or so, I believe. Could be a bit more to discuss the halachas of how to deal with a dead body on Shabbos. And then we will go to we're going to the Agadita, to the very fascinating ideas about death and how to prepare for one's death. Because eventually, if your name is not a Leonovi, it's going to happen to each and every one of us one day, won't it? So hopefully later, yeah, better later than earlier. But it does happen. It does come at the end. So we better know what we're facing. So not for the faint-hearted, yeah. Basically, we're in Kufnan Aleph Amud Aleph. So nice to see you, Jason. Kufnan Aleph Amud Aleph. I'm sorry that the screen is shaking. It's not dying. It's not dying. I think computers sometimes outlive people. Anyway, so robots. Who needs people? We have everything. Robots, AI, humanoids. I don't know if they're gonna ever die. Basically, this year's Le'ilah Nishmas, my father, Menachem Ben Akiva. May he be resting. Bez Hashem. He is in Gan Eden. And let's go. Also learning, obviously, for the Hatzlacha and the Hatzalah of all the hostages, the soldiers, and Gans Klal Yisrael. We saw in the Mishnah, and we are right before the second Mishnah. You see there's a Mishnah at the bottom of the page, right? Kuf, Nun, Aleph, and Aleph. There's a Mishnah at the bottom of the page. And right before that, we have the two dots, Oseloi Oron v'chofoloi Kevel. We saw in the Mishnah yesterday that if a goy whose business is to sell kvarim, yeah, he sells graves and tombstones and coffins, v'chulei. Some people make a nice business out of it. So that guy, let's say he made an aron not for the Jew. He made an aron on Shabbos. He made a coffin, he made a death coffin or a caver on Shabbos. So if he made it loy means either for the goy or we may not know, he just made it for whoever. We're not sure who he made it for. Yeah, so then the Israel can be nikbar, can be buried there right away on Motzeh Shabbos. The topic actually is the Motzeh Shabbos Levaya. Yeah, so the Israel straight away on Motzeh Shabbos can be nikbar. What's the chidush of straight away Motzeh Shabbos? Because normally, if a goy does melacha for a yid, and we know it was done for the yid, even if the yid did not request the goy to do it, the yid has to eat b'chdei sheyasu, which means we spoke yesterday about the swimming pool in New York. We got a lot of views on that one. Yeah, you live in New York, and let's say the majority of people in that Brooklyn heated swimming pool are Yidden, are Frime Yidden, and Mackenzie and McKinley who run that swimming pool, they know that. And if they heated the water for the Yidden, because that's a major clientele by them, so then if it takes, I don't know, 1 hour to heat up the swimming pool, I'm just throwing a number, yeah, 1 hour, then you have to wait 1 hour in Motzeh Shabbos before you enter the pool. So you're not nehena, you're not benefiting from the fact it was done on Shabbos, because anyhow you have to wait that amount of time. That's all very nice when it's done for Yid. Now, when it comes to the death, the guy who died, so him, we can bury him straight away without waiting for that amount of time that it takes to dig the caver or build the coffin. Okay, we're going to see in the Gemara why. And we said, Israel lo boilomis. The other extreme. If the caver was, yes, built for Israel, yes. Mackenzie said, yeah, I know that Jewish guy, and I dug the caver for him. Such a nice guy, he's a good neighbor. He dug a caver for him, for the Yid, on Shabbos. Then the Yid cannot be buried there forever and ever. Ooh, not even wait b'chdei shiasu, he can't be buried there forever. So we see an extreme over here when it comes to dead people. If he was not made for the Yid, you can be nikbar straight away. And if it was done for the Yid, then you cannot be buried there forever and ever. So now the Gemara is asking the question, also, now we are on to the Gemara in the two dots. Also, Oren v'chofel kever. Frag the Gemara, Amai. Yeah, we see the lines before the Mishnah. Amai, why? Why is that? Hochanami yamtin b'chdei sheyasu. Meaning, Even in the best case scenario, when the guy did it for someone, he wasn't clearly doing it for the Yid, but he did it, and it's not so clear who he made it for. Why don't you have to wait b'chadei shiasu? Maybe in his mind he did it for the Yid and he's not telling you, right? You don't know. Maybe we have to be concerned. Maybe he did it for the Yid. We don't know he did it dafka for the Goy. And if he did it for the Yid, then it's a problem. You have to wait b'chadei shiasu at least, right? Why do you allow him to be nikbar straight away? Answers the Gemara, Omar Ula, the Oimed Bisratya. We're talking here about a grave that stands in a very public place by the highway. Isratya means this is not in a regular burial place like a cemetery. That burial place, that grave, was dug on the highway. We have a big sign, a billboard, right? By the highway, you have a nice little grave over there. Only goyim are nikbar in such places. Yidden are not buried in such places, and Mackenzie, MackenzieBurial.com, he also knows that. So if he dug the caver in such a public place, which is very goyish custom, then we believe him. He really did it for goyim. And if he did it for the goy, and then the Yid came, the son of the Nifter come and says, listen, my father was Nifter, do you mind selling us the kever? Gesundheit, no problem, because we know for sure that it was not done for the Yid, it was done for a goy. That's no problem. Anything that goy did for himself, right? For example, if the swimming pool is mainly used by goyim, yeah, it's used by all the, I don't know, Italians or Puerto Ricans and the Irish, all the nice people of New York, and the Jews are a minority. Then I can jump into the pool straight away in Muktzeh Shabbos, 1 second after the 3 stars. Why? Because it was done for a goy. If something was done for a goy, I can benefit from it straight away in Muktzeh Shabbos. And that's the case over here. In other words, if the style and the location of the caver looks very goyish, we believe him that it was done for a goy, and the male of the Yid can benefit from that straight away in Muktzeh Shabbos. Okay? Now, frag the Gemara, just one more point to finish off. Tenach kever, I'm okay with a kever, meaning the burial spot, the place where the kever is, okay, makes sense. It was located in a very goyish place. We Yidden are more tsanua. Yeah, we don't want our graves to be in the middle of, right, in Europe, there are places where actually have a burial place. No, like, I don't know, in America, like generals, yeah, in the middle of the street, Kilo Dafka, they make all monument. In Spain, there's such a place. Yeah, so we don't do that. We're nikbar in more private places, areas. So then, but that's all very nice about the caver. But on Michael Mema, what can I say about the coffin? The coffin itself, made out of wood, what do you say about that? It's not located anywhere. Maybe the coffin was done for the Yid. And if it was done for the Yid, then you do have to wait the sufficient amount of time. And it says the Gemara, that coffin was also located already on Shabbos, yeah, was built and located straight right next to the caver. So it's like a package deal. The actual grave and the coffin are together in the same place. So we know that the Oren too, the burial coffin, is also for the goy because it's supposed to be all one-stop shop. It's all together there in the goyish site. Mimela, we know that the Yid can be nikbar over there because clearly it was not made for the Jew, so the Jew can benefit from it right away in Muktzeh Shabbos. I'll just finish off what we said yesterday, just to finish off the picture, just to tie the loose ends. What about if the kever was done for the Yid? Then why is it so stark and you can't be nikbar forever and ever? Yeah. Let's say Mackenzie says, yes, I really liked Chaim Yankel. He was a real good neighbor, Chaim Yankel. He had these funny sidewalks, but he was a good man. I made his own, on Saturday. I knew you guys can't do it. I did it on my own, because you, the guys can't bear. Very nice. So misken, he means well, Mackenzie. But Chaim Yankel can never, ever, ever, ever be buried there because he was made designated for Eid. Why? Why not forever? Should be b'chadei shiasu. We're the other extreme now. The answer is with two answers. Machlokes Rishonim brought down the Mishnah Berurah, either because it's famous, it's well known. A kever is something well known. Everybody knows who dug. Oh, really? All the Achnes of Tan are going to talk. Oh, wow. Mackenzie, he's the one who actually built it for Chaim Yankel. Huh? They were neighbors. Da da da. So because it's famous and well-known thing, it's not a mundane thing. Mimela, if it's dafka known to be done for the Eid, then you have to wait. That's a bigger knas, not to benefit from it forever and ever. The other answer is no. even if something was done especially for the Yid in a very vociferous way, it's still okay. But kever is different. Why? Because this is kovod hames. The place where the person is nikbar is very, very, very significant in Yiddishkeit, right? Today the issue is death. And like you don't want to be nikbar next to a irreligious person, right? For example, no, it's halacha. Halacha and Sanhedrin, the origin of Masech Sanhedrin.
You have to move them.
It's the whole business. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's not so simple. Where you should, whatever. Well, my own family, we have to work hard to find the right spot. Yeah, it's not so simple. So bekitzer, people get very, yeah, and that's why. So mainly because kaver is a very significant thing. That's why if it was chilul Shabbos, if the kaver was done even through a goy, but in the was through chilul Shabbos of a goy for a yid, that's also even forever and ever because it's a kovod hames. It's an extra special level above, everyday life. Yeah. Says the next Mishnah, sorry, but we're still in the death now. Oisin called Soke Hames. Now we're dealing with a very tricky question because obviously, if a person died on Shabbos or right before Shabbos, what do you do? How do you take care of the dead body? On one hand, we know that Kohelet Hames, as we just said a second ago, is something very important. You don't want the dead corpse to rot, yeah, to putrefy. We don't want it to go bad. And on the other hand, you're not allowed to touch it because it's muktzeh. A dead person is muktzeh. We had that issue already at least twice before in the Masechta. We had it with David Melech. David Melech was nifter on Shabbos, and we're going to mention it again in Amud Beis. And it was the whole issue. Shlomo Melech didn't know what to do because his father was in the sun, the dead body was in the sun, and there was a whole issue that was discussed in Daf Lamed and again here. And also, we met it in Daf Mem Gimel Mem Zayin. It's been discussed in other places. What do you do with the dead corpse? So let's see. One second. Says the Mishnah. Oisin called tzorka. First of all, as long as you're not over muktzeh, you're allowed to do anything that the mace needs. Called tzorka. You're allowed to and should therefore deal with all the needs of the dead person. And we're adding sachin umadichin oisoi. Sachin, you're allowed to smear oil. So I guess the body doesn't go bad. You're allowed to smear cream, or I mean, not cream. That's a problem. Let's say you have oil, sachin umadichin oiso. You wash him and you smear, some kind of oil to make sure it doesn't go bad, to maintain as much as you can the body fresh. As long as you don't move any of his limbs. In other words, as you take care of the maester massaging the body with the oil, you can't move the, let's say, hands, feet, toes, or not even the eyelids. Why? Here comes the chiddush of the Mishnah. Although it's not so simple, it's an issue and depends on each case, but conceptually, here we're learning the halacha that even though you're not moving the entire body, you're moving part of the body, and most of the body stays in its place. You're still not allowed to move it. Let's say my computer, yeah, laptop. Most of the laptop stays on the table, and I'm moving it back and forth. I'm not going to show the example because then the screen is gonna tremble. Get what I'm saying? So that, according to here, is not allowed. Yeah, yeah. Or an animal, a dog. A dog is muktzeh. Can you play with the, let's say the dog likes it, no tzar b'chaim, chas v'sholom. Yeah, you're allowed to play with the ear of the dog. Yeah, or the nose. Yeah, go like that. You're not moving the entire dog, just parts of his body. So the answer is no.
Even if it's your own dog?
Even if it's your own dog, yeah, 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 for sure. Yes, no difference. Well, we saw earlier in the previous Mishnah, you're allowed to push an animal and yes, partially move part of the body. That would go tzar b'chaim. If it's to avoid tsar b'alechaim, let's say there's a chicken that ran away and you're allowed to support it from the back and touch it from the back. Then partial touching is allowed because there to avoid tsar b'alechaim, which is an isur dorais according to some. But the mace, of course, we respect the mace very much, but you can manage without moving his body as long as you can manage without moving his, his arms, his eyes, his whatever parts of the body. Leave it and don't touch even parts of the body because part of muktzah should not be touched, should not be moved. Okay? Beseder. Now, what about if the dead person is lying on a pillow or lying on a mattress and it's hot, no air condition, it's sunny, and when he's on the linen on the mattress, it gets too hot, and you want to move him to the sand that's nearby. The sand is colder, or the floor that's colder. So v'shoimtin asakar mitachtov. The dead guy has a kal, a pillow, a mattress underneath. Don't move the dead person unless you really have no choice, and we're going to talk about it later. You should move the kal from under the dead person. Gently move the kal from under him. You're not moving him, you're moving what's under him. And then indirectly, he will gently be moved and like not thrown, Khalila. He should be gently shifted onto the cold sand. Bishvil sheyamtin. Yamtin here doesn't mean to wait. Yamtin here means to cool down, to cool. Such a word in the second Berkah Bavas from Matuna. Matuna means like chill. Oh, I'm asking a question. How come you're allowed to move? Really, Baruch Hashem, I saw that the Ran asked the question in Daf Mem something Mem Gim around there in the Mems. Why are you allowed to move the car? Is the bosses l'davar aser? Right? The dead guy is Muktzeh. When Muktzeh is lying or staying on something, then whatever is on is Muktzeh. Let's say you have money on the table, money in a purse. The purse is also Muktzeh, right? You have a small little table, shelf, made for items, for all kinds of bits and pieces, odds and ends, a cup, a shelf, and the money is on it. The whole thing is Muktzeh. Also, it's underneath. How come this? So how can you move the car? What did you gain? You're still doing Muktzeh. Answers the Ran over there. It's the Ran, I saw it today. And the Ran says, no, over there, over here it's allowed because bossis means that the bossis is really helping what's on top of it. It's meant to be the basis for what's on top. Small money is supposed to be in that little cup in that purse. And that person is actually not supposed to be, it's not the ideal place for the dead guy to be on those kolim v'ksosos on that bed because it's bad for him. The bed, B-E-D, is bad, B-A-D, for him, for the dead guy, because it gets too hot. So that itself shows it's not a basis. It's not the ideal place for it. Memel, it's not a basis, so you can move it. Now, continues the Mishnah. Koishrin esalechi. Oh, dead people, I guess, they tend to open their mouth. And if the dead person has his mouth open, I assume it's not covered the mace. I didn't see any Rishon explaining what's so bad, but I guess if you see the dead guy with the mouth all open, it's not shein ezach. It's not a nice, respectable thing for the mace. So you're allowed to tie the lechi, the jaw. In other words, as he's opening the mouth, yeah, you're allowed to tie the jaw to keep it in place so it shouldn't continue to open the mouth. Why? Lo sheyale ela shelo yoisif. You're not allowed to tie to close it because then again you're moving. It's mukta. You are moving the dead man. Yeah. If you tie it like that, I should live till 120. Sorry, but if you close the mouth, then you're moving the guy. You're moving the dead person. That's mukta. So all you can do is just tie in such a way to maintain it as it is without moving it. Just keep it as it is. That's allowed. V'chen, we now compare the dead person to a building. Koiro shenishbera. Let's say you have one beam from the ceiling. You have a ceiling made out of beams, and one beam is not completely broken, but it's like, it's already tilted, it's slanted, and begins to break. Imagine yourself, all the beams are nicely, all the slates are up there, all the slabs, and one of them is going down, and you're scared it's going to completely break. So you're allowed to support it with a bench or with a bedpost, which is called a kli, yeah, and support it and maintain it as it is, so it shouldn't fall even more and completely collapse. Lo shetale ela shelo toisif. You're not allowed to support it and build it back up. You're not allowed to start supporting it and get it higher and more and closer to the ceiling than it was before, because that's boine. Boine is not only building an entire building, boine is even to improve part of a building. Yeah, and if one beam is getting closer to its original place, that's building. But shaloto isif, allowed to support it to maintain it as it is, so it shouldn't completely break and fall down. So you're going to call the handyman or whatever, the builder on Muktzeh Shabbos. Right now, you're allowed to maintain it as it is. Okay, fine. Zog the Gemara. Now, the Gemara will first deal with the issue of what? The issue of the sachin. We said before in the Mishnah, at the beginning of the Mishnah, you're allowed to smear, like a massage with oil, smear, anoint with oil the dead person. And we said that that's allowed. Okay? Yeah. Why do you do that? It's allowed on Shabbos. What's the question?
The question is for a living person, though, with oil, we learned that you have to be very careful with how you would.
That's a good place to revise what we learned. If the oil is hard, it's like a cream, it's usher because it's memareach slash memachik. If we're talking about refuah, and it's clear that that oil is just for medicinal, medical purposes, it's also not allowed. However, it did say clearly in Daf, I think Kuf Yud Aleph, if I'm not mistaken, I think it said over there that if it is completely runny and you do it just for fun, like women like to do it more, maybe sometimes men, you just take completely runny oil and you're not sick. Oh, you don't have these chapped hands, which I sometimes have in the winter. Stop. Your hands are Baruch Hashem 100% healthy. You just like to have that nice, fragrant, feeling of nice oil, completely runny, liquidy on your hands. It is allowed on Shabbos. That it's true, there are many conditions, I agree. You have to be healthy, no health issues, and the oil is oily and not hard. And just for nice, fun purposes, that's allowed.
And that's the same for mace in terms of the same type of oil.
Oh, now for the mace, it's exactly the same thing. Now the mace is muktzeh, but so far, yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. You're allowed to, you're right, Jason. In other words, if you have whatever you're allowed to do to the live person, you're allowed to do to the dead person when it comes to smearing oil. Enochinami. Okay, however, now that brings us to the following question. Frag the Gemara v'omer Rav Yehuda omer Shmuel. Ma'aseh betalmido shel Rabbi Meir. Once there was a Talmud, one of the disciples of Rabbi Meir, shenichnas achav lebeis hamerchatz. Rabbi Meir went to the Beis Hamerchatz. He was allowed to go to Beis Hamerchatz on Shabbos before the Gzera. In Daf Mem Amud Aleph, we saw already, to the bottom of the page, there was a Gzera. But before the Gzera, Rabbi Akiva went to the Merchatz in Bnei Brak. It was very normal for the Tanoim to go to the Beis Hamerchatz on Shabbos. It was health, it was a normal thing. So now, his Talmud, the Talmidim always served the Rabbonim, was part of the Shimush Talmid Chachomim. So he followed Rabbi Meir into the Beis Hamerchatz, and Bikash Ladiach Karka, the Talmud wanted to do the right thing, to help the rabbi. So what did he want to do? He wanted to wash the floor. The floor of the Beis Hamerchatz, he wanted to wash it, to, like sponge it, like, to clean it with water. No mops, nothing to do with schita, just regular washing with a hose, with a pipe. Amar lo, ein madichin. You're not allowed to wash the floor. Yeah, to washing the floor is not allowed. And I'm not going to explain why now, because we're going to anyhow see it soon. And we all know that there's an issue of ashvuya gumois, right? If you come to wash it, eventually you may come and level it. However, we're going to leave that for later. Losuch kalka, you can't wash it. The Talmud wants to do the right thing, to respect the Rebbe. So he wanted losuch kalka, to take some oil and smear the oil on the floor of the Beis Hamerchatz, like they do today, like varnish, not varnish, like, some nice coating of oil to make it nice, smooth, yeah? Losuch kalka, omaloi and sochin kalka. No, you're not allowed to smear the kalka, the ground. So now, why is that a question to us? The question is as follows. The Gemara and the Havamina thought that if I take a surface that's muktzeh, let's say this splint of mine is muktzeh, let's say, and I start sachin, it's like moving it. If I start smearing, azoy, I'm moving, maybe it's called moving the muktzeh. So the Gemara says, wait a second, you're telling me that it's okay to smear the dead person's body with all the wrinkles he has and all the over here and over there, yeah? So you're telling me that's okay? No. We see that you're not allowed to to smear, to anoint the karka, because the karka is muktzeh. That's what we thought. The karka of Beis Hamerchatz, because it's made out of sand, it's made out of earth, it's not tiled. Therefore, when you move it around, when you sach the ground, it's called moving the muktzeh. So how come the mace is okay? And says the Gemara, no. You completely off shot, says the Gemara. Karka be karka michlafa, Meis berkaka loy michlaf. And that's the end of the answer. Let me translate and then explain. Because we're going to have a very strong shift over here, a very big switch. Yeah, kuf nun aleph amud base. Yeah. Now the answer is as follows. I'll just translate first and then I'll explain. Karka, you may switch by mistake one type of floor with another type of floor, but a dead person you may not mix and confuse with a type of floor. What does that mean? The story is as follows. Well, like this. First of all, you are allowed to smear muktzeh. As long as you're not mamish moving an entire limb, if you are smearing, yeah, basically giving that oil massage to the dead person, yeah, even though there may be a very slight movement, it's not called moving the muktzeh, and that's allowed. So why didn't he allow him to be sach, to do sicha to the karka of the Beis HaMechatz? Says Rashi, you're completely out of the picture. The karka of Beis HaMechatz is made out of it's not made out of, it's tiled. It has tiles. It's made out of nice marble. Beis HaMechatz, a nice mikveh, a nice swimming pool. In those days, they had Roman bath. In Eretz Yisrael, it was very fancy. They had very, very nice floors. You know why is it that I can't start smearing with nice kind of varnish or oil the Beis HaMechatz floor, even though it's tiled? Because even though tiled, there's no issue whatsoever. It's not muktzah, it's not nothing. But if I come to do sicha to the one with the tiles tomorrow, I'm going to do it to the one without the tiles. Why is that a problem? I'm going to go tomorrow to a less fancy Beis HaMechatz, the one in I don't know, in the Hick town, and there they don't have it there very over there they don't have the Beis HaMechatz with tiles. They have it with regular karka, and most people were poor, and their living rooms were just regular ground, dirt. And if I smear the dirt, it's not a problem of muktzeh, but it's a problem of good old, what I told you before, a shvuye gumois. What's a shvuye gumois? There may be all kinds of bumps and crevices and little holes in the ground, and as you smear it, either inadvertently or on purpose, you may come to level the ground. And leveling the ground is called boine. That's the issue. Basically, the answer is very simple. No issue of muktzeh. The mace is okay. A mace, you're not going to confuse mace for the ground. Just because you smear the body of a dead person, muktzeh, no problem. But you can't ever tell me that if you start smearing the dead person's body, then tomorrow you're going to start smearing the floor. Dead person and floor are not similar. If you smear the floor that has nice shiny marble tiles, then tomorrow you may do the same to the karka, to the regular karka, the earth one. In the earth you may come to do lashvuy gumois, to level the ground, which is bochmer. Frag the Gemara, and we're about to hit the Agadah soon. I'm going to read a good few psukim from Kohelet. Frag the Gemara, kol atuyemai. The Mishnah started off by the words, oisin kol tzolka mace. What are those extra things you do for the mace, which were not mentioned in the Mishnah, black and white explicitly? What are those things you're allowed to do besides smearing and all that, and then washing? And says the Gemara, la'atuye hodaton rabbanon. It's coming to include those actions you're allowed to do for the mace, those activities. Mevin kli maker, clay maker. Clay maker are kalim that cause the dead person to be colder, that help him to chill. These are clay zchuchis. Yeah, you know, the glass is naturally cold. The clay matochois, kalim made out of metal kalim that also make it colder for him because it's hot. It's always an issue that we don't want to move the mace because it's muktzeh, but we're trying to maintain him in the heat with as much, try to cool down the body before the kvura, which will be on Muktzeh Shabbos, so the mace does not heat up and start to rot. You're allowed to take all these kelim and also put them on his stomach so the stomach doesn't start bloating, and eventually if the stomach starts bloating, it can even open up. Yeah, and that's going to be the discussion later. So therefore, you're allowed to maintain. By the way, I just want to one off, not tangential, just to mention a point before we continue. What happens if he can't do all that? His mom is dying he's not dying, he's already dead, but he's cooking in the scorching heat and nothing helps. What do? Then there are a few ways. One way you're allowed to move him, especially if there's a sakono or sakono of fire, You're allowed to take kikar or tinoik, remember? You're allowed to take a baby or a loaf of bread, or the truth is any valuable item, put it on the mace, and make the mace into bosses lodover mutar. The mace is now bosses for something that's important for you for Shabbos, and move him away. But the other way is allowed to move him from the ground and roll him in a respectable way, indirectly, min hatzad, until it gets to the shade, v'chule, all kinds of ways. Yeah, but if you can do without those solutions, you can maintain him cold even in a hot room, then it's better. Okay, and these are all these techniques we're learning over here, like the cold kalim. Right, yes, right. Very nice. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "En klinita elo toch devel nita." Very nice. That's Rabbi Yitzchak in Daf Mem Gimel. We don't pass in that way. What would he say? In Echanami, he would tell you not to do it. Ah, okay. It's not the first in the Mishnah. You're asking from the Mishnah to Rabbi Yitzchak. I hear Rabbi Yitzchak maybe would give you a different shot to the Mishnah. I hear what you're saying. I hear. It's a good aura. I hear what you're saying. It doesn't work l'chor with Rabbi Yitzchak. Yeah. Or Rabbeinu could be from Mace your Mekel. Right? Because of Chov the Mace, your Mekel, because otherwise you have to do other tricks like moving in with a kikartina. That's not ideal either. So maybe Rabbi Yitzchak, which usually tells you not to take anything that's for muktzeh, for the sake of muktzeh, maybe he would allow it because it's the tzorich hames, cover the mace. Yeah, but good. I like your question. A poikikin is nekovov. The person has all kinds of nekovim, chalulim. It could be the mouth, it could be the rectum, and you poikik, you close them, you close them up, kedesh lo tikonos ben ruach, so the wind, the air shouldn't go in. Yeah, sometimes if the air goes in, it's not good for the mace. I don't know, I never took care of macing in my life, Baruch Hashem. But basically, I guess there's some kind of air that's bad that can come and cause the mace to rot or something. So you close his mouth, you put something in the mouth or in other orifices in order to make sure that the wind or the air doesn't come in. You stuff it with something, yeah, with cloth or something like that. Oh, now we are relating to, and here we're starting the Agadita here. Basically, the Gemara is now connecting the halacha with the Agadita. It's very interesting. What did we say here halachically you're allowed to do? You're allowed to take the mace and make sure that his stomach does not bloat and boom, basically crack open. That's what we're concerned about. Continues the Gemara and says that Shlomo in his wisdom said, Ad sheloi rotek chevel kesef. Before we continue, and this is an introduction for today's rest of the shiur and tomorrow's shiur too, because tomorrow we will mention some of these psukim also, well, hopefully. I'm going to read it to you here from the Kohelet, okay? I'm not reading from the Gemara now, guys. I'm reading from Kohelet, courtesy of Chabad. I saw their translation. I'm not reading word for word. Basically, the last parak of Kohelet, Parak Yud Beis, tells us in a very poetic and very dramatic way how death is, how one has to prepare for the death, and how life is so much of vanity in life, of just being connected to the physical, to the body. Young people, are very into the body, the gym, the health, handsome, shidduchim, hopefully shidduchim, yeah. It's all about beauty and health, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has to be taken in proportion. Because we're not going to take our body with us, as handsome and as amazing as it may be, as healthy as it may be, we're not going to take it with us to Gan Eden, right? That's not what we should invest in. So now, says Shlomo Melech, I'm just reading the first 7 psukim of the last parak of Kohelet. Kohelet says, all these psukim, or most of them at least, will be mentioned in the Gemara. That's why I'm reading them here. Remember your Creator, in the days of your youth. Remember Hashem before the bad days come. Before the years, eventually, now he's talking about old age. You're going to come to old age, and those years have no desire in old age. Because if when you were young, you didn't remember Hashem, when you're old, you have no content, you have nothing to live for. From now on, Shlomo Melech compares the human body and the human faculties to like a street and a house that are slowly closing down. At the end of the day, everything closes down. The market, the house is all quiet, dark. Ad shalot echshach hashemesh, before the sun, darkens, va'or va'irech va'kechovim, all the luminaries before they go dark, do tshuva before things go dark, v'shova ha'ovim achar agoshem, and the clouds return after the rain. Bayom shiyazu shomer abayis, all these are all mishalim, it's all in the allegory to the human body. The day that the keepers of the house start trembling, visavtu anshe choil, the people of the might, the guards, they start crumbling. Ubotlot echonois, those that grind, botlu, their dentures, my friend, that's it. No teeth. Kimoatu, there are so few of them. The choshko rois marubois, those that can see through the aruba, those that can see through the window, they darken. Right? In other words, the eyes don't see as well. The sogur glosaim bashuk. The doors of the market, the doors of the street are closing. Mishfal kol tachono, and then the sound of the mill of the tachana is going, lowering. The sound is lower. The yokum lekol tzipo. He gets up from the noise of a bird. When you're young, you sleep really well. When you get older, every little bird wakes you up. The yeshoichu kol b'noi sashir. Those who sing, the women who sing, the good singers, Ishachu, they all of a sudden they start, getting stoop. They get lower. You don't hear as well. Oh, now this pasuk we're going to see soon. That's a dramatic one. Ada shalo yirosek chevel kesef, the silver cord, the chevel kesef, will snap. V'torutz gulas hazohov, the golden fountain is going to also break, is going to shatter. V'tishover kad alamabua, the kad, the pitcher, the jug is going to break by the spring, by the river, the spring. V'noretz hagalgal labo, and the wheel is going to run down and break into the pit. Everything's breaking. All the system, all the faculties are. This is towards the end of the psukim. Now he's describing mamish death. Before he was describing old age, you don't see as well, you don't hear as well. Now he's describing real death. The faculties are not going to be there. The yoshev ofer la'oretz kshehoyo. The ofo, all is going to stay with you at the end of the day. What's going to be at the end of the day? Ofo, dust. From dust to dust. You'll return into the land, into the grave, into the ground as it was. By the way, this is the one, I think, clearest allusion for Olam Haba in Tanakh. Tanakh does not talk a lot about Olam Haba. Here it says very, very, very clearly that, yes, Haruach, the spirit, Toshuv will go back to Elokim that gave you that spirit, So the body goes down, the guy may have been the most handsome, sporty, amazing looking, good guy in the world, but at the end of the day, he's gonna just, rot under the ground. It'll be very, very tasty for the worms. And the ruach, the spiritual part, will go up to Hashem that originally gave it. That was very, very important. Just read the psukim. Now the Gemara will analyze the psukim, and both today and tomorrow. Tomorrow's a whole new Mishnah, but still talking about death. Now, what did Shlomo Omar b'chochmosoi? Why do you say chochmosoi? Because we know Shlomo Melech was the wisest of all men. And what did he say? Ad shlo yirosek chevel kesef. Remember, that silver cord will snap. Ze chut hashidra. Chut hashidra, that is the spinal cord. Spinal cord is whitish, silverish. It's like a cord. And eventually, goodbye. We all know that if something happens to that place, the person can be paralyzed. When a person dies, the whole thing just goes kaput. Goodbye. V'torutz goylas hazohov. What is a golden fountain? Golden fountain, and it's going to break, it's going to go. Ze ama. It's the male organ. The male organ, why is it called goylas hazov? That's an interesting way of describing it, because really, what's gula? It's a fountain. Because this is the source, like a fountain of water, a spring of water. This is how we have children. Last time I checked, there's no other way, right? So therefore, and it's Zahov. Why Zahov? Because it's important. It's very important in many ways. The Ruchnistic ways, the Goyish world, they look in a very bad way. But we know it's a very holy thing, and that's a source of life. Even that source of life, eventually, goodbye. Finished. V'tishover kad alamabua. Now, the kad, what's a kad? That's a pitcher, that's a jug that contains water, contains food, contains whatever it has to contain. And that's going to break by the mabua, by the spring. Zeha keres. The keres, the stomach. The stomach, a lot of good food, Chinese, Japanese, Shabbos, Cholan, sushi, blinches, all the things, yeah. It's all very nice. Eventually, it's going to break. And now, what's going to be even worse, the norutz hagalgal el bo. The galgal is going to run up to the bow. The bow is the mouth. Mouth is a bowl, right? Because it's like it's a pit. And everything, what's galgal? Something will roll up from the stomach to the mouth. That's really gross. That's a bad, I shouldn't say gross. That's the scary part. Ze perish, which means that all the dung, all the, excrement is going to go up through the mouth. Perfectly. Yeah, that is the vanity of life. This is what something we have to remember. V'chenu oimer, by the way, he says very nice at the Maharsha, Galgal is like Galal. I think Rashi says the two, and then he says something else. Yeah, Galgal, sorry. Perish Galal, and the Maharsha says Galgal is Glal. Glolim are feces, yeah? And the run up there. And elabor ze perish, v'chenu oimer. Similarly, that idea that the dung, the ugliest, most disgusting part, will eventually come up, yeah, v'zereti perish al pneichem, perish chagechem. The perish is another name for excrement. I will, I will, no, I will, no, there's a lot to, I will, what's the best word? Not splat, no, to spray, to, no. I do say spray I will basically scatter. I'll scatter the perish, the dirt, on your faces. Perish chagechem, the perish of the holidays. I will something to do the holidays, the chagim. I will take the perish, the dirt, and I will scatter it on your faces. What does that mean? Omar Avuna, v'amri la Omar Rav Chaga, either Avuna or Rav Chaga, they say. Elu b'nei Adam shemanichin divrei Torah. Some people, instead of learning Torah, manichin divrei Torah, the mamish don't care. They leave aside. They consciously neglect Torah. The oisin kolimem kichagim. They make all their days into holidays. We're not talking about the nights Rosh Hashanah, Shavuos, Sukkot. That's not their chag. They just decide that every day should be a party. They don't learn. They don't go to shiurim, or they go to shiur and every other day they have another party, and they party the whole time. And basically, they're wasting their time in indulging in all kinds of physical pleasures instead of learning Torah. What will Hashem do to them? He will take the dung, the dirt, and basically throw it on their faces after they die. Now, the Maharsha says that's why it says perish. Why perish? There are many words for excrement because they were poirish from Torah. Mida keneged mida, get it? They were poresh. They departed. They removed themselves, like lifrosh, perisha. They removed themselves from Torah. No, I have a shiur, but I have another party and another party and another party and another party. Whatever is the second cousin's grandson's pidyon ben. Of course, he has to go there instead of attending shiur. And people, unfortunately, that's a reality. Yeah. Sometimes, of course, people have important things, but sometimes it gets funny that people have another party and it's another one, no end, and that's how the life looks like. And lo leinu, and then that person at the end of the life, all he has is the dung, the dirt from all these parties, and that's what he's going to have on his face, lo leinu. Omar Blevi, Omar Papi, Omar B'Yeshua, le'achar shloisha yomim, what happens to a dead person after 3 days from the death, you count 3 days from the death. Kreso nivkas, as we said at the beginning of the sugya, his keres, the stomach opens up, cracks open, v'nofeles lo el ponov, and all the dirt falls on his face. Basically, yeah, beforehand we said that the dirt goes up internally to the mouth, and I did read it in one of the Meforshim. Here the Gemara says the stomach opens up and all the dirt on the face. The fellow the stomach tells the person, take what you put inside of me. So I read somewhere that this is not talking about the achila nitzreches. Everybody has to eat. If you eat for avodas Hashem, you eat for Shabbos, you eat for this. Of course, you're allowed to go to Simchas also. I also have a Simcha tomorrow. My grandson's bris, Be'ezras Hashem, and I'm going to miss shiur. And not shiur, not this year, not this year. I'm going to miss my chavrusa. Sometimes you have to, of course, yeah. But I'm saying, if people turn this into a habit of just eating and feasting and the whole cuisine culture, and it becomes too much, and the achila becoming an idol, which is what happens in the Western world, I'm afraid. So then, eventually, the stomach is going to tell the mouth, I'm angry with you. You put too much food in me, and therefore take what you put inside of me, tshech, in the face, as we say in Hebrew, ala panim. Yeah, you know the expression. It's not nice. So then that's the story. Be'ezus Hashem will be zoiche to dedicate our lives to Torah and mitzvahs, and I also have to go on a diet. That's also true. Yeah, and to also know what's the right direction in life. So till after 120, hopefully we'll be in a better place. Now the next Mishnah we're going to do tomorrow, and it's more on the same subject. We're going to see more about death, about if a person is free after the death or the other way around. Much more on the same idea. Shkoyach, we have a comment here from. For your information, bodily fluids and air comes out of the mace. Spent 20 years the Chevra Kedisha. Okay, we'll discuss that later. I'm not arguing with the Chevra Kedisha guy. It comes out of the mace and not inside. Okay, fine. We have to discuss this. Thank you very much, Tzvi. Thank you for your interesting comment. Thank you. Okay, Shkoyach, thank you everybody. Into our anytime. And as long as we live, we'll continue learning.